Let's fucking get it, boys! Let's get it! Ah! What is up, guys? You big, huge noobs are back at it again with episode 3. Thank you, Rupts for submitting this playthrough. For those that don't know, you big noobs out there that don't know, this is a great series where I coach you to your victory in your own Inferno cape. We look down all the possible ways that you messed up your own attempt. That way you and others watching this video will not mess up their attempts. This is a great learning community series that's driven by your submissions, so if you want to ever submit a clip, the instructions are on the screen. Basically, all you need to do is just upload your attempt to your YouTube channel. Either comment, message me on YouTube, I don't care, get it out there somehow that you want me to review your own attempt. All you got to do is, also I would recommend join the Discord. You can maybe even put it in there, but the Discord, even if you don't want to submit your own playthrough, is a great community of everyone just like you who's trying to get their own Inferno cape. I'm personally in there coaching people. No, I do not accept payment. I just do it for free out of the love of getting you guys your own capes, because that's what we want to see here, boys. You guys getting your own capes and us everyone learning as a community. So let's get into this attempt. So this is an interesting play. I've actually never seen anyone start from this pillar. He's doing it. I mean, it's completely fine. You can start from whatever pillar you like. I've just never seen anyone start from this pillar over here. Usually everyone starts from somewhere over here on near this main pillar. But it looks like you're doing it from over here. And not just that, I noticed if you switch back to your inventory over here, you're also using a full armadillo to start off your mage attacks, and you're using the mage cape and boot switch, which, I mean, all credit to you. Decent idea, because later waves I'm assuming you're just going to start with full Justicar, or Justiceer, however you nerds on YouTube want to pronounce it. But you know, it's interesting to see a different technique. I personally use an ancestral top because I think it has a better mage attack bonus, and then immediately switch to Justicar after the first or second cast. But it looks like you're just going to big dick it on in there with that cape and boot switch, so we'll see how this one goes. So just some advice, scrolling fast by, and I noticed this. I'm assuming you know this, that you shouldn't be doing this because you have inventory spots open. I noticed you dropped 2 brews at the beginning. That way you have 2 open inventory spots. There should be no need if there's just 2 blobs. You shouldn't have Justicar on when you're casting this. Your magic accuracy is lowered. I don't know why you're doing that here, but I wouldn't get in the habit of doing that. So I just want to play that clip. I wasn't even speaking because I was counting how many times you were casting with that Justicar on. At a low wave with just 2 blobs, you really don't care about your HP. Look, you haven't even taken 1 hit yet, but that pillar's gone down in HP. In the lower waves, you're completely fine of just, you know, I would rather you start casting in full Armadillo over full Justicar at this low of a wave. And it wouldn't be even a big deal, even if you just pray ranged and force them to hit you with a mage because your Armadillo has high mage defense. But you don't need to be casting, and this is also a weird spot to be standing on the rip. I think you started off here. Just either take off your full armor or like 1 piece, or just wear the Armadillo, or because you lost so much damage off that pillar just by trying to cast them. Like I'll put a tracker on how many times you tried, but it shouldn't be that many, and I wouldn't be using the Justicar at this low of a wave. You know, I think it will be really interesting to see if later on in the waves, you starting here is going to cause an issue. That's one of my predictions, is that you possibly starting there might cause you to have an issue. The bad part about starting here is you're not going to ever safe spot an enemy behind this pillar starting from this pillar. But if you start from over here, you can safe spot everything that spawns like over here. So if you're starting from over here, the only thing that you could possibly safe spot are like the stuff that spawns like on this side. I just don't think it's as good. I think everyone would usually agree with me on that one. Okay, this might be getting pretty picky, but you froze the nibblers. You had 1 remaining that should have been killed before that bat. And when it comes over here, you try to melee it, and you almost step out of range within where that melee could hit you. I wouldn't get in the habit of doing this. If you have everything safe spotted, take out those blobs first from the safe spot that you actually have marked right here. You could be able to attack those nibblers. So this is a weird one. I've never seen this. I have to rewind. You have 100% run, but your run isn't activated. It's completely fine doing the one barrage and running back to see where a better safe spot is. But since you're walking within melee range, taking damage from this melee minion instead of running. And I notice you switched over now, but I wouldn't ever get in the habit of leaving your run off or starting with the wave with very minimal run energy. It's just not good. And you are starting this wave in Armadale as opposed to Justicar, which I think is better off for you in the lower waves. So that's good. So this is an interesting error on this wave. Everything here looks fine. The initial barrage was done in Armadale good. I noticed you start panicking here in a second. You had Armadale on. If I go back here 5 seconds, your Armadale, I can't see it. It's on. You're praying range against the Ranger, which means that you're forcing the Blob to attack you with Mage defense. So you got to think. You're thinking put on Justicar because you're taking damage, but the only damage that you're forcing to be taken is Mage, which from that Blob. So your higher Mage defense gear is actually your Armadale, which is already on. By putting your Justicar on, you make yourself more susceptible to taking that Mage damage. And if you notice, you put on your Justicar here, and now you get hit once you have it on. And you might get hit a second time. You're going to get hit a lot more having that Justicar on. I noticed you take it off again, maybe you realized. Don't forget what type of damage you're taking. You're not always going to be wanting to use your Justicar especially on these lower waves. Okay, in this case, lower wave, I think you could prioritize these nibblers a little bit harder. You're only forcibly taking the Mage damage if you sit out there and you pray range against this Ranger. And I think these blobs are actually still within your barrage range for 10 tiles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, I think diagonally they might just get you there. I'm not really too sure. But if you sit here and take one barrage, it'll only pull you out like one square. You'll take like 1 or 2 hits. It's fine. But letting these get away might come back to haunt you on the later waves when you're forced to try to save the pillars because you have to. Just by saving these pillars HP a little bit better on the earlier waves, it's like I said before, it's like investing or like putting money in the bank. And when hard times comes, you got like an emergency savings funds. But I noticed several times, and I think I pointed it out before the last time these came to these pillars, this pillar could potentially be full HP, and you still wouldn't have ever needed to brew up. If you were just maybe a little, ooh, he took some damage there. That's unlucky from the mage attacks, but I mean, it is what it is. Again, so you're still full HP, so you're in no danger here. You don't need a brew. You're 47. You could easily barrage these minions. SGS Spectre ones coming down. You should be no problem here. It's just the pillars could be a little bit higher. Ooh, don't run with him melee range. Oh, yeah, okay. You figured it out now. I think the move that you were doing actually to run to this pillar would have been the better move because you would have had the melee and ranger more safely stacked out. I think that's and I don't know why you're starting from here so much, where if you started from here, the wave would have pretty much automatically solved itself by one barrage and then stepping back underneath that pillar this way, instead of having to kind of want to go there and then be like, nah, I'm going to go back here and then stepping with the melee range of that ranger. Again, I think that this is just not a good pillar to start with, because if you're starting from over here or here, you have two possible ways that things are just going to spawn so close to you that like you're immediately being pressured. You have to pray range, but you're immediately being pressured by that melee, and you could have taken a hit, and yeah, you're going to now. All just because you're starting from this pillar. I think starting from the other one is just better, like all the time, like all day. You know what I mean? And they still got one nib left, so you got to take care of that. But praying range will be no big of an issue. Yeah, you should be fine here. But again, you didn't need to take that melee hit if you start from over here. I saw this one coming from a mile away. I wasn't originally going to commentary over it because you're going to take a melee hit right here. I don't want this to turn into a montage of you starting from this pillar taking melee hits, but if it has to be, it will become that. Oh, you forgot to pray range too. But you're doing a good job at blood barraging this, and you are doing a very good job. I want to point this out. His spec is always regenerating. That he's using a lot of his SGS specs really well, and he's blood barraging when he needs to. He actually could be blood barraging here, but making this melee force come to you is completely fine because you still have that range to heal up off. This will turn into a melee montage, I am telling you. Dude, no! I'm gonna make this a montage. You just getting smacked by the melee. Start from this pillar. I'm telling you. Start from this pillar. Believe me, all the time it works. 100% of the time it works. 60% of the time, but it works. This here works like 50% of the time. 50% of the time. You know what I mean? It's a lot less. Oh, wait a minute. I was gonna stop talking, but you still got a nibbler over here. This has got to be taken care of, especially at this level wave. You could run out of the melee range, just pray range, and you won't have to take the melee hit because you're going to get meleeed by that ranger, almost. Again, I'm just going to rewind. I want to see that because I actually didn't see. Oh, yeah, this guy, he got frozen, and then he was like, nah, I'm going to come right now. And then, so you just let all this damage go away for no reason. I don't think you noticed it was there, but if the melee digs to you, when it digs, you pray range and you run over here. You kill that nibbler, and then you maybe transition to the other pillar because you're already on that way, and you want to be starting from the other pillar, not this one. That pillar damage shouldn't be taken. Also, never for that long stand in front of the ranger. He will melee you. So I want to look at this wave because there was a thing or two that you could easily improve on to prevent this from ever happening. I haven't watched too far into it, but you ran yourself into a bruised situation when you didn't need to. There's a ranger over here, there's a melee, and there's two blobs. This is one of the most difficult waves before you get into majors. You're getting pressured by the melee, so standing here might not be the best addition, and the ranger is out of your range, period, from standing behind this pillar, which means that your best move right here, off the top of your mind, since the nibblers are already going to this pillar, is to follow your shot to this pillar, because you can kill the nibblers along the way in case you don't kill them off the first barrage, which, if you see the 31 experience drop, that is not your case. You're going to need to go another barrage, at least one more anyway, so why not go over there? You're already praying range, which is completely fine, and you should be able to run out of the melee range. But instead, you do choose to transition pillars, which is amazing. But right here, you flick mage, and I know some insanely god tier people, a lot of the people that get Inferno could do this. But I can't, and I don't trust myself, especially when I'm not looking at the ranger, to know what tick it's attacking you on. Let's listen to the sound cue right here. You switch mage. That right there. I don't know if you could hear it. I'll rewind it 5 seconds. It looks like you switch back. That was just the noise. But the ranger actually attacks and then makes the sound. So I knew when I was seeing this that you were taking damage, and boom, 35. You did get the hit from the ranger. You can't always go off the sound off the ranger because the sound's delayed after it already calculates. And now you're within melee range potentially. Yeah, I know, you ran away pretty quick, which is good. But you were late on the mage flick, which then hurt you again. If you just stayed range on this, I think you would have ended up being higher HP anyway. And then you could have flicked the blobs. This is right here is either blow barrage or T-bow range. It's not a blowpipe. So please don't attack with blowpipe. You will get drawn out. Let's see what you choose to do. Okay, good. Yeah, you do recognize it's within T-bow range. The meleeer is going to dig to you soon, but that T-bow should be able to kill this and then blow barrage. And when that meleeer digs, you will need to pray melee. So, and also your you're choosing to run. Is that blob going to come around that corner? No, you had it corners. I think you ran because you thought the blob was going to come around that corner and you had it safe spotted on the corner. If it was me, that 56 HP, I think you would have been just fine staying here, praying melee, and just hitting that with one more T-bow and giving it one good blood barrage with like maybe augury on to increase your defense. But now you're running into a sticky situation here where you just ran within melee range of the meleeer. You're praying mage so you could potentially get ranged. You switched in time, so it's fine. This ended up working in your favor. I just think that maybe if we went back to the whole, again, the reason I said you should just stay praying range when you ran over there, and then maybe you could have just killed that blob and gave it a quick blood barrage while praying melee. I think this wave just might have been a little bit smoother. But you did do a great job of transitioning the pillars and recognizing that opportunity. So, that's kudos to you. So one thing I did notice here, if it was me, and the mage is on this pillar, I always attack it from this back side through this back of the pillar, because when it revives towards this side of the pillar. So you're vulnerable if you're standing on this side of the pillar. When possible, always stand towards the side opposite that it revives to. In this case, you get punished because you're vulnerable to this, and then you don't actually get your prayer on in time, so you did tank the range hit, which is fine because you took 0, but in the future you could potentially run into issues if the mage is spawning dangerous minions here, and then you're running towards the dangerous minions and then being exposed, when you could just avoid that exposure all in the first place. Ooh, okay, you made a mistake here, and you can't get in the habit of doing this in later waves. You notice that there's a mage here and 2 blobs, which is completely fine. You didn't kill them in the first barrage, and I notice you're not praying augury off the rip, which I guess, I mean, hey, if it works for you, it's fine. But if you're ever making it to Zuck and you have like an extra prayer pot, or you like are wondering, oh man, I got so much prayer, which is the case for a lot of people, you could just use this augury just for that first hit, maybe the second hit. I swear it only drains like 2 or 3 extra prayer when you just use it for 1 or 2 extra hits. It'll increase the chances of you killing this, especially because you're not wearing any ancestral robes. And then you also increases the defense level so that these 2 range hits that you might be taking from these 2 blobs would be severely lessened. So you get the the barrage, and I notice you flick to prime range to protect against that blob, which is completely fine. But what we do next is not completely fine. The safe spot for attacking this blob is like somewhere like back here. You can't attack it from this middle square because you're out of range. And when you have run on, which you do, which is right, but when you're out of a target's range and you have run on, it will always run you 2 squares closest to the target you're attacking if you're out of range. So you are then going to run out of this pillar, and you have prey range on, not prey mage. So this is where a dangerous situation occurs, and you will actually, you got lucky, I didn't see that far. You tank the hit. And this is also okay, it's trapped behind that pillar, but the corner safe spot would have been better. But now you notice, yes, this is where you should be attacking that nibbler from back a little bit within the range. That way it doesn't pull you outside. And you've been doing a very good job of flicking that blob on the outside as well. And then you also did an amazing job of recognizing that if you just step to this corner, when they spawn on this right side of this main pillar, like to your right, you could always drag them into your T-bow or blood barrage range by stepping to this far corner and then blood barraging these and T-bowing them. See, look, like that's an amazing solve right here. Okay, so here's an example of a sticky wave. You start off with your Justicar on, which on this wave, I still think it's worth it to start with Armadillo, because there's no range majors, and the only range damage that you could have been taking why you would have this Justicar on would have been from a blob and 2 bats, which the 2 bats most likely spawn outside of your range. So potentially starting with the 2 Armadillo pieces on, and then also starting with Aurion would help you more reliably kill these in the first try. With my setup, oh my god, I have no issue with doing this really consistently. But again, you will always run into situations where you don't kill them. You notice that you freeze some of them, you don't kill them, and 1 got away. So it's nibbling on that pillar. You're going to have to go get it at some point. You can make the decision, hey, I'm going to kill this blob the whole way through, or you could run. At this stage, I would be fine with either of those decisions. You chose Wombo, which is completely fine on that blob, and then you're like, no, I'm going to run, which is, again, a fine situation because transitioning pillars here, although this pillar is really safe and a really good place to be right now, you're prioritizing doing the nibbler, which is the same move I would have done in this situation. You're still at a low enough wave that like, hey, I mean, you're just going to pray mage. You got would I have Justicar on for this? Yes. At this point, I would probably have Justicar on because I always have it on usually when I transition pillars because you transition for free. At this point, I would be maybe flicking augury because like, hey, I want to kill this and I want to kill this before I get behind that pillar. But when you run, I would never get in the habit of running within melee range of that melee or the major. I would always step a few tiles out, and then like even if it was just like 2 styles, like 1, 2, like on this row, running on this row would be a better decision than this. You don't get hit by melee by the major, which is fine. You got lucky that you timed it. Oh, actually no, you did get hit by melee by the major. So this melee you, but you got lucky. I don't think it hit you. And then this melee you, but that was expected. So now you're also tanking 2 bats, which are lowering your magic level and your run percentage. You got your Justicar on, so that's amazing. You got your Justicar on, but you still have to kill these 2 nibblers, and your magic bonus, it could be better if you had augury on, but again, Justicar on here is this thing I would do too. You killed 1, and you don't kill the second one, which now at this point, if it was me, I would just kill the meleer and then worry about the nibbler, because you're getting towards those kind of waves where you've saved a lot of money in this bank. This bank is a lot of money. And you could let the nibbler, munch on your money a little bit because, you got a lot of green in there. I don't see any red yet. You got no debt. So I would probably kill this meleer and then worry about the nib. But I think at this point you're focusing a little bit too much on the nibblers. If I was going to step out to this side too, I wouldn't have immediately tried stepping over there. I would have went to the bat safe spot. I think potentially you might have been able to see it, but maybe not. And I don't know, maybe you unequipped your autocast. No, it was autocast. It's just one tick delay, which is fine because you did get the barrage. But, you know, those are just some critiques I would have made. Maybe don't run within melee range of the major, as well as potentially pray augury when you were transitioning pillars to try to kill them more. And hey, if it doesn't work, in this situation you didn't need to. The Noobscape special is a special I like to consider. When you put on your Justicar, you put on your SGS, you had a spec. You could potentially, I mean, your situation didn't really call for it. Just ran over it and SGS spec the Nibbler and then ran behind the pillar. You get your prayer back, HP back in the middle of a wave, and you're more likely to hit and kill a Nibbler with an SGS with Justicar on than you are with barraging it. And good job using your spec there, by the way. Ooh, so this is actually an unprepared. I didn't see past this point right here, but this is an unprepared start where you still address GS out. Okay, you were quick on the switches, which is really good, and you did get a kill 40. So this is actually a really nice solve, but I would just recommend being a little bit more prepared on start of waves like this. I think you actually switched a tick early. Yeah, those are going to hit you with range. What I would have done is the appropriate way to switch pillars. This is me just rewinding back. You go range here. I think this is on the tick just fine. You wait. That's like one tick. You wait again, and then you have to. You're here to work because like right now they're gonna attack you right there. Boom. I would have just waited that 1 or 2 extra ticks to pray range, and then like switch to like let them hit you with range, and then like switch to mage to move over. So that way you're moving over here when they're attacking you with mage, and you're also going to be hit with the mage on this side. Because those two could have potentially comboed you for like maybe 40, 50 damage that you just didn't have to take. And I actually just realized now, you also have a melee over here, which is posing a threat because you're not going to kill this in time. You're not freaking rigor to kill that mage. So you're going to potentially have a melee over here. You can't safe spot the melee on this side. You're actually running into trouble transitioning pillars here. Amazing move though. I would not have switched to range on that transition. Justicar should be just fine. To tank all that damage for you. Doing those flicks without looking at the major is a little bit risky. I saw you missed a flick on the range before earlier in this review. But transitioning pillars here is a good idea. You certainly do have an interesting strategy. I noticed you're quick on the flicks because you weren't in your gear, and then boom, you have all your gear on. I like it. You have your quick pray set to pray mage, and I'm assuming it's just pray mage because I noticed you're not praying augury. In this wave, with 2 melees spawning and the mage, I probably would have just started with the Ancestral because you know that all the mages always will start out of your range. So you could get 1 hit with the Ancestral and with a higher chance of attacking and killing it, and then switch to your Justicar if you're quick about it. I would only recommend doing this if you're comfortable. Like if you got down to a science, it's always what works for you. I'm just saying what works for me is the Ancestral, or in my case I have the Ancestral and then Justicar legs, maybe just Justicar legs, or sometimes in these waves without the Ranger spawning too yet, I also will have the Armadillo bottom. In your case, you could just start with just both Armadillo because you don't have the Ancestral. And then also, I notice you always are starting from this pillar. And you start from like sometimes this side, sometimes this side. It seems like you're indiscriminatorily starting your waves, which it's not bad to be indiscriminatory, but in the Inferno, like you gotta pick and choose, like, you know, so you're consistent. And I think that this is consistently a better spot to start over here. And then you do a really good job though of putting the mage behind that pillar without even looking at it. I noticed you must have some extreme gamer sense because you don't even look at half of these things to know what they're doing, which is amazing because that means that you're going to be great as Zuck. I don't even know if you get there or if you have been there this attempt. But and then you notice that you could switch to just your blowpipe, take that out even quicker. But this is a great solve to have, that put that mage behind, and that way you could just pray melee and take out these two. But I would recommend to start from this pillar because let's think about it. If you start from this pillar, the mage would have had time to walk down here before you would have had to pray mage, and then you could have just walked to this spot, and this is a melee safe spot. I think they would have just all like filed in, or you know, you could have worked around this pillar I think a little bit better than starting from over here. Oh. So I noticed something. Your playstyle is always changing and evolving. It's not necessarily the most consistent. I notice now your quick play actually is sweat to Mage Augury. If I go back here just a second, I want to see if I could find where the split second where you do show it. If I swear, I can't even get that. I'm not even gonna bother getting a post name, but I saw your augury flick on, which is great. I noticed, so I didn't know this. I was a big, huge noob with my Inferno cape. I didn't know that if you manually cast Ice Barrage and attack the middle nibbler, it doesn't have that 1 tick delay that you get when you just auto cast it, which is why apparently you're supposed to be manually clicking. If it's me and you're a noob, I don't feel confident with that. I just would get that 1 tick delay and oh, actually here it shows his augury, so there we go. I just autocast it, and you are doing an amazing job of, you hit it once, you have your augury on, and then you run back immediately. Your Justicar's on, which at this point with your setup, I notice you're doing an extra mage bonus with your shield and cape, which in my case I would be using the ancestral top and then quick switch to Justicar in this case, and then just probably Justicar mage this. But you have your own spin on this, which I like the creativity, because if this is the strategy that works for you, great. I notice you're starting from this pillar now, which is, I would recommend always starting from this pillar. And also in this case, I know you're doing a lot of barrages, but I think you're still in your Justicar, and now you are going to switch to your ancestral, which is definitely the move, because you don't have to, tank anything. You could separate them. You don't have to worry about the mage. You're praying range already. So yeah, and now you notice it, which you're always under a lot of stress in the Inferno. So I want to say, when I'm reviewing your guide, I'm not trying to insult you. I'm only trying to provide like constructive criticism to get you better. And I know, believe me, I've been in these situations where you're in these, and I don't even think of half this stuff when I'm the one in the Inferno, because you're under a lot of stress, you're under a lot of pressure, and you don't have that luxury of, my bird's eye view, where I'm looking at the situation saying, oh, you could have done this, could have done this. But, you're the one that's worried about, where am I running? Like, where are all the nibblers? Are the nibblers dead? You gotta like have a much more concentrated view of this when you're in the game, as opposed to me, where I have more bird's eye view, like a wide eye view of everything that's going on, because I don't have to worry about actually doing it. Ooh, okay. So I know one thing I'm going to set in stone: you can 100% improve on something in your gameplay. It's fine that you didn't kill all these. I actually haven't seen this far into the run, but I noticed one thing: your timing on transitioning pillars. It is tough to get this down right, but you can use your improvement and reduce your damage you're taking just by switching your timing and getting a little bit better on this. Let's go back and see what your timing is. You're praying mage. You take one mage hit, and then you're running over here. Which, if it was me, I probably would have gathered my cool, because you're doing this really quick. What you're doing is right. I just think you're maybe rushing it a little bit too much. The only other thing that could damage you here is one blob. So in this case, you really have time. And honestly, if it was me, I know my first instinct is to run back. I would have maybe stayed here, because I always run back unless I know that there's like a ranger right here that's like danger, danger, danger. I would probably have just stayed here, and as I was gathering my cool, maybe potentially done a second hit on the nibblers, which would have benefited in the long run because one of them survives. You chose to run over here, which I think the mage taming was fine, but you didn't have the range switch in time. So you take your range hit there, which you have Justicar on, which is the right thing to do. You didn't take an additional mage hit, which is good. I guess you were playing it safe like that, but you do take that range hit, and you didn't necessarily need to. The fact you had Justicar on only helped your best of benefit. And if it was me on this situation, I would honestly probably... Okay, I do have a problem with half killing something and then going for nibblers. It's like Karate Kid. You gotta either be on one side of the road, all in, or one side of the road, all out. Because if you're in the middle of the road, you're gonna get hurt. And if you're choosing to half kill something, waste time, and then go kill a nibbler, this thing, nothing changed for you. Nothing changed in this whole situation except you wasted time, because the ranger's still there. Period. That's how it is. The ranger still might pose a threat to you. And in this case, I would have either equipped T-Bow, ran to this spot with Prey Mage, because this is still within T-Bow range, or I would have equipped, Blood Barrage with Kodai, again, Prey Mage, ran to this spot, and just tried doing one cast, because now you're running back into this ranger's range again, and you're also within melee range of this mage minion, which I noticed a very, very common thread with very, very common trend with every single person I've been reviewing. You guys run too close to minions that could melee you, and that might be the case here. You might run into some... Okay, you are one square away, so you got lucky here that the blowpipe dragged you out like that. And I noticed, okay, following your pillar is good. You actually had that ranger trapped. The ranger got lucky enough to trap behind that blob, but you're running out of the trapped range. And I don't know if you have your Justicar on. You have Armadillo. This could... no, it might not look dangerous right now, but this actually could be deadly, because... And if it was me, honestly, I would have gave him the Noobscape special. And this is actually a really good example of the new skip special. You already took a hit from when you did a bad time transition over there. You should have, if it was me, I would have just T-bowed it or barraged it. But if you're choosing to run and blow pipe it and then run over here anyway, you could have had your Justicar on and smacked it with an SGS on your way over, which your SGS would have been fine, and you would have had the Justicar benefits of defense. But you're taking a range hit, which could have been like a 40-something, and then you're taking a blob hit, which could have been a 20-something. And if you add that up, I don't want to do the addition, but that's probably really close to 72. And now you equip the Justicar, but you take two additional hits. So you took 4 hits there. And I think all those hits could have been avoided if I just go back in time to this spot right here, where you instead just chose to stay here and potentially, T-boat once or blow barrage at once, and just see if you didn't need to transition, because I don't think the need for you to transition was there. If there was a melee minion present, I think that need would have been there, but in this case, I just don't think it was there. Okay, so this is a later wave where you could run into some trouble. Again, fine to be an Armadillo. I love that you're praying. So my bad. I have, hard time pronouncing my R's and L's sometimes. But I love that you're praying Augury, and you did catch that bat, which is nice. It's just an added bonus. Honestly, what you're doing here, I agree with. I think this is a good move. It's a tough situation. You need to get one more barrage to kill this, and you need one more barrage to kill these two, and you need another barrage in addition to this. But ladies and gentlemen, this is what happens when you're in Justicar. He's completely fine. I hate running this pillar, because this is one of those sticky situations where now you have a ranged mage coming towards you that I don't think are going to be safe spotted. Oh no, that mage is because of the bat, but only because of the bat, which is why I think you should have been praying range for that second or two right there. But you're completely fine. Oh, I wouldn't flick, and that is a bruise situation, which you did, because I noticed your levels did fine just go down. 1 would be fine, because the Justicar brings that max hit down by like 15 to 20%, so this is livable. And you're just going to have to deal with a blob here. So this wave's solved, because you can blow barrage and get your SGS here. I don't think you needed a second brew, but if you're never sure, 2's fine. Like you've completely enough brews. Just remember when you brew, for those that don't remember this, and a lot of people forget, when you brew, your magic level goes down. And when your magic level goes down, you unequip whatever you had auto-casted. And when that happens, you melee. And this kills so many people because it drags them within melee range of something that they shouldn't be. If you tried, and I'm saying, it's great that you didn't. You were praying range, which is fine, because this range could see you. But let's say you weren't praying range for some reason, and you tried blood barrage in this range minion, you would have been dragged out of the pillar and been attacked by this minion over here. And I noticed you've meleeed this several times now. You can get yourself in a very, very sticky situation where always get in the habit of, after you brew, just check to make sure it's still auto-casted, because you didn't. And although you didn't get punished here, you could have in the future. So I just want to look back here a few seconds to when you started this wave. We'll go back in time. What I would have done in this situation, looking back on it, is this first barrage is fine. I'm just going to explain it in my words. Yeah, if it was me, just getting the grasp of the situation, because I think the mage is somewhere over here, but I can't really see it. I would have stepped back over here. Starting Justicar, completely fine. Praying Augury, amazing. I would step over here. You notice that you can't kill them. So if it was me, I wouldn't have ran here. I would have just, my gut instinct tells me run this way, and then over to this pillar. And as you're running over here, you're DPSing. These nibblers are dead. You might have to take a hit or two from this. This is frozen in prey, so you won't have to deal with the bat. The blob is stuck behind the pillar for now, but you might have to take a hit or two, so maybe 4 hits total. But as you're running over here, I would have been running DPSing up to this to go to the other pillar, because this pillar is just not good at holding these two back from the sides, because the bat's really the only thing preventing that mage from coming down. And in this case, I know if it was me, I would be scared and praying mage too. But if you, and you didn't take any range hits, but you could have been praying range here, you would have avoided that 10. And actually, that might have been the difference between brewing or not. I wouldn't have tried to run with it. And you did take a 1 there too from not praying range, but you're trying to transition praying mage is what you're supposed to be doing. I think you're kind of forced to run within melee range of that major, which is, unfortunate, but it happens. You have your Justicar on, so it's not really that likely to hit. Here, you did a great job brewing up here, and you're in your Justicar, which is fine, but I think that Maybe you could have avoided something by running this pillar, but overall, it's a completely fine solve. You just ran into maybe a little bit of a sticky situation. I'm not even going to show the beginning of the wave, because you did it again. In this situation, you ran Justicar amazing. You killed the Nibblers off the rip. Great. The Ranger's on the right side. You run through the left side of this pillar to avoid taking that melee hit. And you flick, which is dangerous here. Right, there's the mage. You were on that mage attack with the flick, fine. But you ran through the major, man. You took a melee hit and didn't have to. And then now, ooh, I wasn't going to go this far. But in the case that the range is attacking you, you can't step to this corner safe spot because it's already attacking you. That just won't work. It'll try meleeing you, which isn't good. You need to step to this corner safe spot to block that blob from attacking you, because in this case you stepped here, which blocks your back. You know, you got your back all covered with that pillar, and you just DPS that down. Instead, I don't think you saw this, and you're now trying to flick, taking damage while flicking. It's a rough situation to be in, taking more damage while flicking. Uh-oh. So this is the point where you're you're 44. All this could have been avoided if you just stepped to this spot. And now you got your Justicar coming on, I think. It is. No, do not run to that pillar. Oh my god. So this is, I do have a problem when you get something so close to dying and then you don't kill it and you still try to run over the pillars, because what changed? Nothing changed. While you were just taking all that damage, you just took all that damage for nothing. Oh my god. I think you remember the melee range of the blob, and you're praying range. You're not praying range. You got lucky that hit you a 0, because I think if we go back, when you transition pillars, which is again another weakness you have, you prayed mage too early. That range is gonna hit you. This could actually have been deadly. You got lucky you didn't die here. 10. The ranger could potentially hit at 34. Even with your Justicar on, I'm pretty sure. You don't have Arcane on. I'm pretty sure that provides defense bonus. If it was me, it would be on. And now this, you better brew here. You brew here. Completely fine. That's what you should have been doing. But now you are, let's sum up how much damage you're taking. You ran within potential melee range, maybe you're one square off, I don't know, of that major. You're taking mage, you're not taking mage damage, but you could be taking the melee hit. You're taking both of these bats. You're taking range from the blob. You missed a range flick over here. And let's see what happens if you run over. But I'm going to tell you, okay, that brew was amazing because you avoided death. You cheated death, congrats. And over here, I hope you find a way to solve it. But all this problem could have been avoided if you did the very, very simple, that was me rewinding back to the situation, very simple thing of just stepping back 1 square. We would have been full HP and you would have saved all those brews, and as a result your 85 prayer, which at this late of a wave you maybe want to start around like 20 to 30, because if you do have to brew when you restore, you're not wasting the excess restore that you've used by just not thinking to go back over here. And then even if this did happen, what my gut tells me is I just hold the prey range. You do have that range really close to dying. So I would maybe say, okay, you continue attacking the range and maybe hold augury for the defense and range bonus. But if it wasn't as far down, I would just hold range and just DPS the bat down and the blood barrage the bat all while praying range. You could have potentially been fine, but by you flicking, I don't know, you got in a weird situation. Just step to the square. So I want to point out, amazing job. If you ever get a weird stack like this, you would need to step out of this stack to this side to off-tick the mage range. But this mage actually wouldn't be off-tick because he's already starting over 1 square. You need to remove these bats on this side. So you did a great job of, I call it like wiggling around the pillar. You went over here and you just like, I think you're going to have to maybe tank a blob hit. I would pray range first in case that range hits you, and then move back over here because I know that mage is going to be blocked by those bats, and then would have switched for the blob. But we did a great job of luring these down. And then if we just look forward a few seconds, the way you solved this is you had this come over, you killed the bat, and then now you're free to start from this square, step out over here and kill the range first, and then flick to the mage minion, which is amazing solve. And I should fast forward here a few seconds, and oh wow, he actually got the mage to come down. Amazing job of working around the pillar, or the range came down. So now you don't even need to do it this way. If it was me, I would be T-bowing that mage first, stepping out once, T-bow, and then step back and flick it, switching for the blob. You didn't even need to do a pillar solve with that range mage, which is great. Okay, so this one you're going to want to follow your shot. You do a good job of doing that. And I think you're still, yeah, you're holding your auger, which is in this situation is good. and 13 was a kill, but you still have one. And this is why Justicar is just so OP, dude. If it was me, I wouldn't have stepped down that one extra pillar. I would have probably stayed on this spot because you're safe from, you know, a bunch of extra damage here. But this is great because you did get that mage to come around, so I guess overall this is fine. And if it was just me, I would just hold range, kill the blob first. But he did an amazing job. I want to actually rewind and show you how much the Justicar saved you. Saved your ass. Like, this is why Justicar is amazing. This is 1, 2, 3 things hitting you. Like, one time, this is the second cycle. This is the third cycle coming. Fourth cycle. Fifth cycle. And still 99 HP. Look, you even made a mistake by stepping down here one too far. I would have probably stayed over here because you're still praying mage. You didn't have to take that hit. And then I would have maybe transitioned pillars to range at the correct timing in between this attack and this attack, which is something you can improve on, but the way you solve this is completely fine. I can see that maybe you're working around your weaknesses, which is definitely the key to beating the Inferno. I could only pretty much hint to what your weaknesses are, but you're doing a great job of working your own way around it. So this is another wave that potentially shows where your improvements could be. Again, in my setup, I use a slightly different. I use an ancestral top switch before I go to full Justicar, and it helps me DPS these. I know sometimes you're not getting that full kill off the rip. I feel like I'm a little bit more consistent with my setup, but again, your setup's fine. You're more resilient on that damage incoming. You're doing a great job noticing like immediately here, you're like, okay, let me just focus first. Decisions made. Okay, you're going to have to tank your full Justicar on, but you're going to have to take that range and maybe one melee hit while you're running over here. Transitioning pillars here, great idea. You get one hit, it splashes. I noticed you missed the window right here for a second and maybe a third hit. Maybe you just misclicked. I don't know what your deal is. You had enough mage level to attack it. But right here, you should have switched to range earlier. The second you saw that mage attack, boom, range and then run. You have like 3 ticks in between where that running should be close enough. You could even sit here right on that corner, so that way you know that you're going to have enough time. It only takes 1 tick to run off that corner. And now you're over here, you can you take that range hit, you didn't need to. But you're doing a good job DPSing that nibbler through here. You're taking a lot of hits to DPS this guy, but it's fine because you have, look at this, HP looking fine. That transition was great. You even made the prey mage, so maybe you're not always having issues. Okay, that one you hit prey range when you're a little bit late. And in this situation, yeah, but it'd be attacking that melee first too. Because then after you kill this melee, this spot's free to run too with the mage on that side. And I'm actually going to just talk through this clip because I want to see when you transition, if you transition over to this side, which I think is a better move, you make the correct flick between range and mage. He is walking, so let's see if he hits it. Oh, no, he didn't. No. You didn't take any damage, but Prey Mage went on the same tick this attacked. I think. Right? So, no, I would have just waited until the next cycle because he's already like 1 or 2 ticks in. I would have, boom, I would click Prey Mage. Honestly, if it was me, Prey Mage first and walk at the same time. But I think you just waited a little bit too long to do it. It just needs to be a little bit quicker. Oh, you did it again. This could have killed you. Wow, I didn't realize that. Okay, you did it again. I didn't realize that this could have killed you. This is the same exact wave as the last clip I just showed. The mage, you didn't kill quick enough to revive the meleeer. I understand you're under some panic here because you need to switch pillars in order to not be killed by that melee. I noticed you've been always struggling in switching pillars. If you notice that you're always struggling in that and you're really just like, oh, noobscape. I'm just such a big noob. I don't want to learn it, which is fine because I'm not great either. I'm not that great either. You could play around your weaknesses and you could just Prey Mage, hold Rigor, put on maybe the full Justicar, maybe just the Justicar bottoms with the Ancestor or the Armadyl top, and just DPS. This is one hit, and you wouldn't have had to deal with. You actually missed the flick. Yeah, okay, so the missed flick was from the 44 because you panicked when you were going to run. And now you're praying mage, and this ranger is attacking you, and you have 34 HP, which could have killed you. that's just something you're gonna need. If it was me and I was coaching you and I knew that you had this weakness, I would have told you just to sit here, hit it once more with range with like maybe Jessica on. You hit that run at the correct time, so you're inconsistently good at switching like this. Under pressure, not so much. If it was me, I just would have told you to DPS it. I think you actually took that hit without the praying mage, but you survived it, which is fine. That actually could have killed you too. You're running into a lot of near-death experiences. I've noticed that throughout this whole attempt. Okay, so let's see how this wave goes. You're in a great position where you notice that the range is blocked, so standing here is an amazing... And I've noticed, I think before in the thing I mentioned, that I usually always run to this spot. In the event, the only time I don't run immediately here is if I see either the mage or a ranger just standing right here, just like looking to hurt me. In that case, you notice that staying here is an amazing place because this melee will run into the melee safe spot. This bat might attack you, but it's really not that big of a deal because your priority right here is just killing these easy nibblers. Running here is not what I would advise you to do in this situation. I would have stayed here because the melee and bat would have been just fine, and I would have just potentially killed the bat first. And now you're taking bat hits, melee hit, and you're running within melee range of this major, which might melee you. And now I think you were one that square in between was fine. You had the mage safe spotted. I would have just waited there like an extra tick to make sure, but where you were was fine. I think this is actually running too far in, but I don't think the mage will be pulled because the melee's there. You took a melee hit and a blob hit, or a bat hit. Yeah, at this point, just pray melee. Don't attack that. I think that's actually 1, 2, 3, 4. That might be out of range. You might get pulled in. Oh, you hit it with T-bow. That's fine. I would just kill that melee first and then worry about that mage later. You may end up transitioning pillars. I'm going to skip you DPSing this. If that melee gets revived, it might be a weird situation if that mage doesn't block it. But he didn't revive, so you're completely fine in this situation. So you're already doing really good. And I think you probably have made it to Zuck if you're looking like you're this good, you're looking like you're this confident. So that's great. You notice it's 17 experience drop. It's my first instinct would be just run over here, try to get 1, 2 more if you haven't taken big damage. And then honestly, this is late enough in the waves that would be like, okay, at this point you run over here, you take out maybe the melee and the range that are causing you, a big problem, and then you come back and you kill the nibblers. Let's see what you choose to do. You're gonna need okay, so that froze I think killed, and then you're gonna need 1 more. This is just amazing. You're just still a full HP, and then yeah, I would transition pillars there too. It's just the better move. So this is exactly what I think I would have done too. And then now you're just in a beautiful situation where you kill the melee when it digs. You then just could come to this side potentially and kill that mage, and then kill the range when it comes down. This is a great solve. Oh, no. What's happening here? What are you doing here? You had it perfectly solved. I literally just was saying that it's solved. So if the ranger this is the second or third time, I should have guessed that this is the way it was going to end. When the ranger's walking down, the way you corner safe spot this is you come over here. This is where you need to be. I didn't notice it until you got to like this point, but you shouldn't have died here. This was an easy corner safe spot. You should have recognized this is where you needed to go. But you panicked and you said, hey, let me run on the outside. You're praying melee, which is fine, but I think these actually are going to be on the same tick. Ooh, what? Is that the ranger? Oh, yeah, that sucks. You got hit by range first when you're praying mage. Oh, my. This goes back to your issue with the transitioning sides of the pillar. I don't think you have you don't just recognize the ticks right, because I've noticed just such inconsistencies with this. So you're praying mage too early before the ranger attacks. So it'll let the ranger attack and then rain over. So you get hit by range when you're praying mage. And then you switch to praying range, and that's when I think the melee hits you, or maybe, no, I think that was actually when I think the 49 was from the melee. Can the melee even hit a 49? Yeah, it was the melee. The melee hit the 49. You got hit by melee right when you switched to pray mage instead of just holding the melee. Then you switched to pray range, but it was a tick late, and that's when you got hit by the range. And then you were a tick late on the mage, and you got hit by the mage. Oh my god. You were tick late on all of those flicks. Oh god. Okay, so a very simple way. The amazing power of Justicar. Even if you didn't recognize that this was the spot to go on. The really easy solve to this is just simply, if you get in a super panic situation, and if it was me, I would have prayed. If you were already praying melee, I would not have worried about the flick to range. I would have A, prayed melee. I would have B, put on my augury. I would have C, put on the Justicar, which you have in your inventory and you've been doing an amazing job of using up until this point. And then I would have switched to mage the second those have already gotten their first hit on me, and I would have got out of there. I would have just ran. I would have booked it for the hills. And you wouldn't, I guarantee you would not have taken 3 consecutive hits, because if you're praying mage when you ran over, you got the first, let's refrain. You prayed melee and you stopped the first melee hit, you had your Justicar on, you probably would have just tanked the range like I've seen you do so many times earlier in this playthrough. And then I would have switched to mage, and I would have ran over here. The mage would never have hit you. The melee would have been out of your range, so you would only have to have been taking the ranger and the blob, which would have been very easy at 99 HP. Instead, you were 1 tick off all of them, you LOL'd yourself, and you ended up with 7,320 to taco when that should have been an Inferno cape, in my opinion. Are you good enough to get an Inferno cape? Yes, you're definitely good enough to get an Inferno cape. Maybe today wasn't your day. Maybe this week wasn't your week. I noticed you submitted this a little bit ago. I apologize. I've been actually doing a bunch of Inferno videos, and I've also been a little bit busy. But you could easily get the Inferno cape. It's just some minor issues, the biggest of which are your ability to recognize when you should be switching to the other side of the pillar, and like the flick that is associated with it, that timing. You need to get this down. That's one of the biggest ways you're going to improve. The second one of the biggest ways to improve, I would stop so much stepping to the outside of this pillar when you don't need to. I would also improve not starting from this pillar, start from this pillar over here. You did a really good job of recognizing where to run overall, but I think that just the biggest thing is just the running within melee range of things that you don't need to run within melee range of, and then also this transitioning pillars that would have saved your life. And this is also massive combo damage. This is going from 99 HP. Oh my god, how much is that? Yo, someone do the math. 49 plus 19 plus 50. That's over 100 damage, I'll tell you that. That's a ripperoni, man. That's a recipe spaghetti, never forgetty if I've ever seen one.